How nervous would you be if you're a Packer fan right now?
Extremely, extremely. They
How did
talked
this
about the.
happen? How did this happen?
I think it starts. Obviously, a lot of the problems that you see crop up during the season, especially the early part of the season, really started in the off season. I think the uncertainty surrounding Aaron's situation, how it trickled down to the decision that Devontae Adams made to leave, Aaron not necessarily being around this offseason, around those young wide receivers. See, this is what I'm talking about, where you have a limited amount of time, in a really structured environment at the facility to work with players and get to know one another and develop chemistry. So as it is, as mandated by the CBA. When you then don't even do that, but then you have a bunch of young wide receivers and you lost one of the most prolific, most talented wide receivers in the NFL, and he just walks out the door. And now you're trying to bring this new group together and you're not around as the quarterback. There's just no way. There's no way that in a mandatory mini camp setting, and then in a few training camp practices where then you're then not even dressing and playing full speed during games. And I don't care how many joint practices you do, they're nothing like games. It's still different. It's still different because it's not scripted. And it's a game in a stadium with fans, and you have a different uniform on, and it feels different. And the pressures are it's all different. I don't care if it's preseason or regular season. It's different than what a joint practice is. When you don't partake in all that stuff, if you're not familiar with one another, you're going to have bumps in the road, man. You just
And I
are.
had a problem with Rodgers not getting together with these
That's
receivers.
right.
Like
That's right.
play just a couple of get into a
That's
preseason
right.
game and help them understand the magnitude of, hey, you don't replace Devontae Adams, or you don't.
Right.
Collectively, we do. So I did have a problem with that.
I did too. I did too. But see, many excused Aaron because he's Aaron. And I get that on the surface. This guy's a prodigy, a savant, a one of the guys who many people deem as maybe the most talented pure passer in the history of the NFL, because he can do things with the way he throws the football and the positions he can get himself in and still deliver the football accurately that you've never seen anyone be able to do. And that's great for him. That's great for him. But it's like, it's like the reason why some great players don't ever become coaches is because they expect players to be able to do the things that they were able to do, and they can't. And they can't really communicate it to them, so they don't ever become coaches. Well, Aaron is now maybe expecting some of these wide receivers to do things that Devontae was able to do and have the same kind of chemistry he was able to have with Jordy Nelson back in the day. But they can't. They just can't do that, especially if they don't have the exposure to him in terms of live reps that those guys accumulated over years and years. And that's not to say that Aaron has ridiculous expectations of these guys, because he's spoken about the fact that I can't expect them to be where those guys were when we were clicking on all cylinders.
But does it
Well,
now
if you know
become
that, then be there in the off season.
does it become even more evident that the Packers have to go get OBJ when he's
I,
available?
I don't, as far as his experience, OBJ's playmaking ability, he says he has a good relationship with Aaron. Yeah, on the surface, Dan, it looks like it makes sense. But remember, when he went to LA, there was kind of a breaking in period between him and Matthew Stafford, between him and Cooper Kupp, between him and the offense overall,
Sure.
until it really started going. And I don't know. I mean, and he's still not healthy. I mean, we don't know where he's at. So it's like, man, will it be too little too late? And then there's other things going on with that team anyway. Like, as this offensive line has gotten healthier and players have returned, like Elton Jenkins gets healthier, David Bakhtiari gets healthier, it still doesn't matter. It's not paying the dividends that you would expect it to. I mean, the Jets took them apart from a physicality standpoint. And I would never call the Packers soft. I mean, I've heard some people say that about how they played this past Sunday. I would never call them that. But they did get whipped, man. They look like they're like moving around in this kind of haze, like, hey, what's going on? Devontae's not here. We can't throw the ball the way we're used to. What's going on? Does anybody know what the problem is? And it's like, yeah, you guys are the problem right now. And then on defense, I mean, they're top 10 in cap dollars allocated to the defensive
I
side of the
know.
football in the NFL. And they're just getting drugged. There's a big problem there.